What do you make of the Oilers? We know what the Florida Panthers did to remain. They kept their guys, and they're going for it again for the Oilers. It's been back-to-back Cup Finals. Yeah. Perry leaves. We've seen a lot of players leave.
Brown,
the
Kane.
Goalies are the same as of today, as of this recording. They add Mangiapane yesterday, so that's some scoring there. I know, and it's probably overblown, but it's very much what can they do to keep Connor happy? Is Connor happy? Have they shown enough to keep Connor? I'm guessing the answer is probably no, but you're pretty limited there with what the dough is. I guess with what they're able to do, the job done by the Oilers to this part.
Well, I'm more curious about what you guys think of Mangiapane. I mean, his market was decent. There's no doubt about that. Brad Treliving, I'm sure, kicked tires, as a lot of teams did. They felt like they needed somebody who can play with Leon Draisaitl. Can Mangiapane play with Leon Draisaitl? I mean, we're going to find out, but that's the thinking with that signing. And, they were bargain shopping to a degree. They cleared the cap space, moved the pieces that they did, mostly because Draisaitl's extension kicks in, and the Bouchard extension obviously gobbles up a big chunk of the salary cap. So Stan Bowman didn't have a whole lot to work with. And I think it's probably best case scenario, because when, I just talked about Vancouver shopping, Toronto's got to shop for a top six. Montreal made a sweetheart deal in Noah Dobson, but they need help up front. They were going hard after Jordan Kyrou in St. Louis and didn't find a way. So anyway, there's a lot of teams that are in the trade market. So at least Edmonton gets something back. I guess the one that surprised me the most was Corey Perry. I thought with some of the creativity that we've seen around the league, with Stales getting Giroux done, Tavares with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Matt Duchene with the Dallas Stars, Jamie Benn with the Dallas Stars, go down the list, that Edmonton could find a creative way to do it, because fan favorite, saw him perform in the playoffs, basically has said, look, I feel like I've got one more good year in me, but that's how tight it is. That's how tight it is for the salary cap and the Edmonton Oilers. They just couldn't afford to have Corey Perry on board.
It's wild, their winger depth. Like it's tough to argue having McDavid, Draisaitl, Henrique, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as center options, but I mean, Zach Hyman's a great winger, and after that, you're talking about, okay, well, we'll put RNH on the wing, and now it's Bud Colson or Mangiapane. Guys that played fourth line roles last year.
I know.
Oh, well, Trent Frederick, and he's like, yeah, he was a great bottom six winger. Yeah. Well, what about Kapanen? Well, he was on waivers. He's a fourth line guy. Like, you're literally putting scraps around that center group in the forward ranks.
Well, and that's why when you ask, is Connor happy? I mean, he's not a dummy. He understands the restraints, and he's a part of it, right? Like, he wants his big slice of the pie, and he's going to get that big slice of the salary cap coming up. No rush, by the way, on that front, but it'll get done. Inevitably, it'll get done. We're all curious as to what is that term going to look like. Obviously, Edmonton's going to want to lock him up for as long as they possibly can, but maybe McDavid goes the path that Bouchard went, goes with a 4-year contract extension. So, but McDavid has to be paying attention to what's going on around the league. I mean, guys, are the Florida Panthers any worse than they were the night they won the Stanley Cup? I don't think they are. They kept their 3 primary free agents. Okay, Nate Schmidt probably would have stayed in Florida, but he resurrected his career, and there was a payday waiting for him, and he got paid. So good on Nate Schmidt. But they replaced Nate Schmidt with Jeff Petrie. Well, is that really a significant drop-off for the Florida Panthers? I don't think it is. So if you're Connor McDavid and you're Leon Draisaitl, and by the way, the lost Gulletson, who's been named head coach, of course, of the Dallas Stars, and he's the McDavid Draisaitl whisperer was in Edmonton. So they're looking around going, Jesus, now if we're lucky enough to make it back to the Stanley Cup final out of the West, are we better?
Yeah.
Are we better than we were in Game 5 and Game 6 against a juggernaut team in Florida? And my answer is no, they're not. And I don't know how they get better.
And Dregs, the challenge is you're not asking Connor McDavid if the last 2 years have been good, because they have. And you're not asking him if they could be competitive this year.
Yeah.
You're asking him to pick from 2 years out until an undecided amount of time.
Right.
They don't have a system. They're up against it on the cap. They're already the oldest team in the league last year.
Yeah.
It's becoming a tougher sell, in my opinion.
Yeah. And now you get 20+ million locked in on 2 defensemen, right? In Bouchard
One's
and
earning
Darnell.
this,
I mean, it's a tough one. They're just, we know the salary cap is going up next year, and then it's leaping again the year after that and the year after that. But is that really going to change a whole bunch of stuff? I mean,
No.
Your good players always come up and need deals, and they're just going to get that bigger piece.
Yeah, and nobody's going to take a discount to go to Edmonton.
No one did yesterday.
No one's staying. Like Darnell Nurse wasn't going to play for less to stay in Edmonton, and I don't again, but in Florida they will apparently.
Well, and the other thing here, and I don't know why people get so offended by it, but you look at that, like, God love Edmonton. Who wouldn't want to play with Connor McDavid? Of course you would, but you look at the aggressiveness of Kelly McCrimmon and the Vegas Golden Knights. They always get the best players. The best available players always end up in Vegas or in with the 2 Florida teams. Dallas has done a nice job. Well, that's not changing anytime soon. So unless you draft and you develop and you're willing to be patient with some of these young guys, or you overpay. That's what the Canadian teams have to do.
Winnipeg.
That's what they have to do. Winnipeg, we haven't talked about Winnipeg, took it right between the eyes on Brock Besser staying in Vancouver, right between the lookers, because, they were willing to overpay Brock Besser to replace Nikolai Ehlers. Couldn't do it. So now what? It's just they sign guys by committee.
Hey, buddies, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.